Liz Truss's resignation as the British Prime Minister has triggered yet another Tory leadership race. And there is only one question on everybody's mind. Who will be the UK's next Prime Minister? Let's take a look at the profiles of the top 5 contenders and decode their chances of becoming the UK's next Premier. The first name on the list is, of course, Rishi Sunak. The former Chancellor lost to Truss in the last round of the prime ministerial race by a slim margin, but still remains the favourite to win.
The key thing is the procedure which is adopted, and we'll know that within the next few hours. If, as last time, the final decision is made by Conservative Party members, so not MPs, but members in the country, then anything could happen, and Rishi Sunak might find himself outflanked either by Penny Mordaunt, who is a right-winger who's quite popular in the party in the country, or just possibly, I think it's unlikely, but possibly by Boris Johnson, who's much more popular with Conservative Party members than he is with Conservative MPs. So we really don't know. But I think Rishi Sunak is probably just the favourite.
Number 2 is Jeremy Hunt. Hunt is an experienced minister with a short stint as the UK's Culture Secretary, as well as the country's Health Secretary. Now, number 3 is Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons. In the last Tory leadership battle, she came within 8 votes of beating Truss for a runoff with Rishi Sunak. Remember, Mordaunt's popularity has risen this week, especially after Monday, when she was sent in place of Liz Truss to take the opposition's question in Parliament over the recent economic turmoil. And contender number 4 for the top job in number 10 Downing Street is Ben Wallace, the country's current Defence Secretary. Now, he was first appointed by Boris Johnson and has remained in the position ever since. Lastly, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is also on the list. According to a recent report, at least 20 Conservative MPs are calling for his return to 10 Downing Street. But will Johnson be able to resist a chance to rewrite his legacy? That only time will tell.
Boris still has massive support among the party membership, and a lot of them are really angry that Boris was forced out of power before he finished his 5 years in office and wasn't given the opportunity to fight another election. The problem is he's a very divisive character now within the Conservative Party. There's a large number of MPs who wouldn't want him to return, and overhanging all of that is the fact that he is still facing an inquiry about whether he misled Parliament. So you'd have the extraordinary opportunity, if he did come back, that he then would be facing possibly being suspended from Parliament and even kicked out.
Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Jonathan Liss, who is the Deputy Director of the British think tank Influence and journalist. Thank you for being with us, Jonathan. Now, governance is all about stability, but that is perhaps the last thing in UK politics right now. How do you see the exit of UK Prime Minister Liz Truss after just 45 days in office?
Well, it's obviously a staggering humiliation for her. It's a total indictment of her party, which allowed her to take office and voted for her, even though she had no public mandate for her policies. And it's a terrible humiliation for Britain as well, which used to be seen as quite a stable country with stable politics for all its historic faults, and now is seen as an international laughingstock.
Right. What about Britons who are battling under the cost of living crisis? When can they expect respite as the musical chairs continues at number 10?
Well, that's a really important question, and it really goes to the heart of it, because obviously at the moment we're transfixed by the political chaos, and we've had so much political crisis and turbulence in Britain over the last few years, particularly in the last few months. But actually, the economic crisis that Truss has exacerbated is going to take years to fix. with her reckless policy announcements, with first the tax cutting, now the austerity, markets have lost confidence in Britain's economy and in the Conservatives' management of the economy. And for ordinary people, that means increased interest rates, so more payments on mortgages and rents, probably much higher energy bills next year, which the government won't be able to afford to subsidise, and big spending cuts. And so people are going to have a really, really hard time in Britain for the foreseeable future.
Boris Johnson seems to be back in the race. What could make Tories back him again?
I'd say amnesia. They tried to get him out. They scrambled to get him out 3 months ago. It's completely extraordinary that they'd now be trying to get him back in. The only possible answer is that they've forgotten how bad he was. And that's a real problem, because they are putting their own interests, their own careerist interests, their own party's interests ahead of the national interest. But it's very short-sighted, because Boris Johnson is not a popular figure. He's wildly unpopular in the country, and he won't resurrect the Conservatives' fortunes. He won't be able to beat Labour in an election, and he's simply going to attract more chaos, more scandal, more crises, just as he did in his 3 years in office. So it's possible the Conservatives will be stupid enough to bring him back, but it will be stupid for them as much as for anyone else.
Right. And one more contender, what about Rishi Sunak? How bright could his chances be, as he had predicted exactly how the Trussonomics would spell doom for the UK's economy?
So Rishi Sunak is still the favourite, I think, but it really depends on whether Johnson gets 100 MPs to support his nomination. If he does, then it will go to Tory members who are more right-wing and not very sensible, and they would choose Johnson over Sunak, I think. But if Johnson doesn't get 100 nominations and it's Sunak facing someone else, perhaps Penny Mordaunt, then I would expect Sunak to win. And he's still the favourite, I suppose. But if Johnson gets 100 nominations, I expect Johnson to beat Sunak in the members' vote.
Right, Jonathan, thank you very much for your valued insights there.
Thanks.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.